Max and Anna seemed like the perfect couple. Their marriage, which lasted for 8 years, was an example for friends and acquaintances. They had a cozy home, a well-established lifestyle, and shared dreams for the future. But lately, Max had started to notice little things that worried him. Anna's phone became untouchable for her. They used to share their messages openly, but now she hides the screen, even when there are regular messages. Her evenings with friends began to drag on until late at night, and important projects unexpectedly appeared at work, which caused her to come home tired and late. One evening, when Max returned home after meeting his friends, he noticed a strange detail. The bedroom light was on, although Anna usually turned it off when she was home alone. The room was filled with an unfamiliar scent of expensive perfume that she had never used. There were 2 cups with coffee stains on the table, although there was nothing like that in the kitchen in the morning. Max said nothing, but a suspicion arose inside him that did not give him peace. In the following days, Max watched Anna carefully. Her behavior seemed usual. She smiled, asked about his affairs, prepared dinner. But now Max saw it all differently. He began to pay attention to the little things, her frequent calls that she answered in another room, new things that appeared in her wardrobe without explanation. His intuition told him something was wrong, but there was no evidence. Finally, unable to stand it, Max decided to act. He purchased a small hidden camera and installed it in his bedroom. It was a difficult decision, but he understood that he could no longer live in uncertainty. He needed to know the truth, even if it was painful. The next morning, while Anna was at work, he checked the recording. What he saw made his heart stop. On the screen, he saw Anna enter the room not alone. A man was with her. They talked, laughed, and then hugged. Max turned off the recording, not having the energy to look any further. At that moment, his world fell apart. The marriage he believed in turned out to be a sham. However, despite the pain, Max decided not to jump to conclusions. He realized that he needed time to gather his thoughts and decide how to proceed. His plan was just beginning to take shape. The next day, Max acted as if nothing had happened. He woke up earlier than Anna, made breakfast, and smiled at her like he always did. Her demeanor was her usual one. She talked easily about her plans for the day, joked, and even hugged him before leaving for work. But now, her every gesture seemed fake to him. Max could feel his anger rising in him, but held back. He understood. In order to resist betrayal, he needed not only emotions, but also a clear plan. That day, he decided to check her phone. When Anna took a shower after dinner, Max quickly took it and began to look for it. The messages he saw confirmed his worst suspicions. In the correspondence with the same man he saw on the tape, there were many romantic messages, plans for the evening, jokes that only the 2 of them could understand, and even a discussion of how naive Max was unaware of anything. Every word hit him like a blow. But instead of making a scene, Max took a picture of the text and put the phone back. In the evening, lying in bed next to Anna, he could not sleep. Her peaceful sleep only increased his pain. But he has a clear goal. He will not allow her to destroy his life with impunity. Max remembered an acquaintance who once mentioned a private detective. The next morning, he decided to approach this man. The meeting with the detective took place the same day in a small cafe not far from Max's work. The detective was a calm and confident middle-aged man. Max briefly explained the situation and showed him the screenshots. "I need hard evidence," Max said, trying to keep his voice level. "Photo, video, whatever. I want to know the whole truth." The detective nodded. "This is not a problem. Give me a few days and I'll figure out what you need." When he got home that evening, Max felt at peace for the first time in days. He knew that soon he would get answers to all his questions. But this peace was only an appearance. Deep down, he felt that the truth he would learn would be even more painful than he expected. The next few days were a test for him. He replayed the moments of their life together in his mind over and over again, trying to understand where he had made a mistake. His feelings changed from rage to despair, from the desire to end this relationship immediately to the temptation to forgive everything. But every time he remembered that recording or read the screenshots, his resolve strengthened. When the detective called to say the evidence was ready, Max felt anger rise inside him. He didn't want to wait any longer. Now he had everything he needed to finally put an end to this story. The detective did his work quickly and professionally. In just 3 days, Max received a full report from him. The folder contained photos, videos, and recordings. Anna regularly met with another man. They went to restaurants, cafes, and even visited a hotel where they entered together. The evidence was indisputable, and each one seared Max's soul. He stared at these pictures for a long time, feeling anger rising in him. But instead of giving free rein to his emotions, he decided to act coolly. Max decided to arrange an exposé. He invited his closest friends and relatives to dinner at their house. Anna was surprised, but did not suspect anything suspicious. She was even happy, because it was a chance to show everyone what a wonderful hostess she is. Max carefully observed her behavior. She smiled, joked, organized dinner as if nothing had happened, but he was seething inside. When all the guests had gathered, Max raised his glass and began his speech. "My friends, I'm glad you're here today," he said, his voice sounding confident even as his heart pounded. "I would like to tell you a story about sincerity and trust. This is a story that concerns our Anna." There was silence in the room. Anna looked at him in surprise but said nothing. Max turned on the TV and the pictures taken by the detective appeared on the screen. The guests, not believing their eyes, looked at the footage. Anna and an unknown man in the restaurant, their hugs, kisses, their joint entrance to the hotel. Everyone was shocked. "Anna," Max continued, his voice turning cold, "you thought I'd never know, but the truth always comes out. And today I want everyone to know who you really are." Anna froze. Her face turned pale. She tried to say something, but the words stuck in her throat. Tears rolled down her cheeks, but Max no longer felt pity or sympathy for her. He no longer saw in her the woman with whom he once wanted to spend the rest of his life. "I packed all your things," he added, pointing to the suitcases by the door. "You can leave this house right now. There is no more room for lies in it." The guests did not know what to say. The atmosphere was tense, and several people tried to calm things down, but Max stopped them. "This is our marriage with her," he said, "and now it's officially over." Anna ran out of the room, leaving the guests and Max behind. He removed the wedding ring from his finger and placed it on the table. His heart was breaking, but he knew that now his life would change forever. That night marked the end of a chapter in his life, and although the pain was still fresh, he was determined to start over. After that dinner, Max's life began to change rapidly. He left home, which now seemed empty and alien to him. Everything that reminded him of his life together with Anna seemed like a burden that he wanted to get rid of. He moved in with his old friend Oleg, who always supported him in difficult times. Max took time off from work to figure himself out and figure out how to move forward. The first days after the breakup were the hardest. Max constantly remembered moments that once seemed happy to him. He thought about their trips, about Anna's laughter, about her words, which now seemed empty. Those memories mingled with the images of her betrayal, and the pain that consumed him seemed to leave no room for anything else. But gradually, he began to realize that he could not live in this state of constant despair. Oleg insisted that Max start playing sports. "You need to get rid of that rage," he said. "Running, exercise machines, whatever. The main thing is to spit it out." Max heeded the advice, and the gym became for him a place where he found temporary peace. Each workout helped him feel stronger and more confident. One day, after returning home after training, Max found a letter from Anna in the mailbox. At first, he wanted to throw it away without even opening it, but something compelled him to read it. The letter was handwritten, and it surprised him. Anna always preferred electronic messages. "Max," the letter began, "I know that after everything that happened, I have no right to ask for forgiveness, but I want you to know I regret everything. I'm sorry for the pain I caused you, for losing you. I miss your kindness, your support. I know you'll never be able to trust me, but please give me a chance to make things right. I love you, always loved." Max read the letter several times. His emotions fought with each other. Pain, irritation, and then an unexpected calm. He realized that he was no longer angry with Anna. Anger left with the part of his life she had destroyed. But despite everything, he knew that he could no longer return to her. The next morning, he wrote her a short reply. Anna, I accept your apology, but our past remained where it belongs. I wish you happiness. Farewell. This answer was the last point in their story. After sending the letter, Max was relieved. For the first time in a long time, he felt like he had control over his life again. He realized that now his path was no longer connected with the past. New opportunities opened up before him, and he was ready to accept them, leaving everything old behind. Moving to a new city became a symbol of a new beginning for Max. He rented a small but cozy apartment near the center. A place where no one knew him gave him a sense of freedom. Max started work in a promising company, and this became his way to distract himself from the past. New environment, new faces, new challenges, all this filled his days. For the first few months, he completely immersed himself in work. His diligence and professionalism were quickly noticed by his colleagues, and soon he was given more responsibilities. But free evenings still brought loneliness. Max sometimes wondered if he could trust anyone again. The past still haunted him in his memories, although the pain was no longer as sharp. One day at a work meeting, he met Elena, a project manager. She immediately attracted his attention with her sincerity and openness. Her easy smile and self-confidence set her apart from others. Elena was completely different from Anna. She did not try to impress, did not hide her thoughts, and seemed as honest as possible. Max could feel interest rising in his heart, but he was afraid to open up. At first, they just worked together, discussing projects and tasks. Elena often joked, and her energy infected even Max, who had been very reserved lately. After one of the working days, she offered to drink coffee together. Max agreed, although he hesitated for a long time. Their conversation over coffee was light and casual. They talked about work, life, hobbies. Max suddenly remembered how much he had loved to travel before his marriage had consumed all of his attention. Elena seems to have felt that something was oppressing him, but she did not ask. She only said, "Life is too short to carry the burden of the past with you. We need to find the strength to move forward." These words stuck in his heart. Max realized that he was holding on to the past, which no longer had power over him. Elena did not put pressure on him, and this allowed him to open up calmly. With each meeting, he felt lighter and freer. A few weeks later, Max decided to finally leave his old life behind. He replied to Anna's last letter, which remained unanswered, short and simple. "I wish you happiness, but my life moves on." After that, he never mentioned her again. His evenings with Elena became more frequent. At first, it was simple walks, and later, joint trips on weekends. Their bond grew stronger every day. Max began to realize that even after the greatest betrayal, life can give a second chance. And now he was ready to take this chance, leaving everything that was dragging him down in the past. Max's life began to take on new colors. Every day he felt more and more how the past was letting him go, and the present was filled with new events and sensations. His relationship with Elena developed naturally, without pressure or haste. She became for him a person with whom he felt calm and confident, but at the same time inspired. One Saturday morning, Elena offered to go to a small town nearby, known for its picturesque landscapes and cozy cafes. Max agreed, though he probably would have balked at such a spontaneous plan before. The trip turned out to be perfect. Sunny weather, quiet streets, and the company of Elena, who easily joked and shared her dreams. In those moments, Max felt something he hadn't felt in a long time: joy. Elena told him about her passion for photography. She showed several of her pictures on the phone: landscapes, portraits, moments from travels. Max, who previously had little interest in this art, suddenly realized that it could be a way to see the world differently. "You know, Max, photography teaches you to notice things that usually go unnoticed," Elena said, adjusting the camera to take a picture of the street musician. "Sometimes we are so engrossed in the past or the future that we forget what is here and now." These words made Max think. He realized that he had been living in the habit of dwelling on the mistakes of the past or planning for the future, but had forgotten to enjoy the moment. On this trip, he was simply happy for the first time in a long time. Returning home, he and Elena stopped by a small lake. The water was calm and the sun reflected in it like a mirror. Elena offered to take some pictures, but this time she gave the camera to Max. Try it, she smiled. Look at the world through a lens. Max hesitated, but took the camera anyway. For the first time, he tried to catch moments that he had not noticed before. How the wind moves the leaves of the trees, how the sunlight is reflected in the water, how Elena is standing next to her with her head slightly tilted. When he showed her the pictures, she was amazed. "You have talent," she said, looking at a picture of her smiling against a lake. "You should pick up the camera more often." It was not just a hobby for Max. Photography became for him a new way of expression, a way to see life from another side. He began to understand that, like photography, life consists of moments, and it is worth learning to appreciate them. The relationship with Elena became for him the stability and support that he needed. She didn't try to fill the void Anna had left, and she didn't demand more from him than he could give. Her naturalness and sincerity allowed Max to feel himself. That evening, looking at the starry sky from the balcony of her apartment, Max realized that he was ready for a new chapter in his life. He didn't just leave the past behind. He started writing a new story, and this time he was sure that she would be completely different. The new chapter of Max's life was full of unexpected changes. Together with Elena, he discovered new places, tried new things, and learned to see the world in a different way. Photography, which she loved so much, became not only their shared passion, but also a way for Max to find harmony. He often spent weekends with his camera, capturing landscapes, the city, and moments of their adventures. His pictures began to arouse admiration even among professionals, when Elena posted several of them on social networks. One day, Elena suggested that Max try to exhibit his works at a local photography exhibition. "This is your chance to show how you see the world," she said, holding his hand. "Believe me, you have talent." Max hesitated at first. It seemed to him that he was not ready yet, but Elena's support inspired him. He chose 10 of the best pictures, including the one he took by the lake on their first trip. The exhibition was a real breakthrough for Max. His works received favorable reviews, and several visitors even wanted to buy the pictures. This was the first signal that his life began to move in a completely new direction. After the exhibition, Max and Elena went to celebrate. They chose a small restaurant with live music. The atmosphere was cozy, and listening to the melody, Max realized how much his life had changed in the past few months. He felt free, strong, and happy. "Elena," he said, raising a glass of wine, "thank you. I would not have been able to go this way without you. You helped me believe in myself again and that life can be beautiful." She smiled, her eyes shining. "Max, you did it yourself. I was just there when you needed support, but everything you created is yours." These words touched him. He realized that Elena not only inspired him to change, but also gave him the freedom to move forward himself. She didn't try to change him or adjust him for herself. On the contrary, she helped to reveal the best in him. That evening, Max decided to take another important step. He found the strength to open up to her completely. Previously, he kept the pain of Anna's betrayal inside him, trying to avoid the topic. But now, sitting across from Elena, he understood that the time had come. "There's something I've wanted to talk about for a long time," he began, looking her in the eye. "My past. It was not always like it is now. There was a lot of pain, disappointment, and even betrayal. But now I understand that all that is behind me, and you helped me in this." Elena listened attentively without interrupting. Her support was quiet, but very important to him. "I want you to know," Max continued, "I'm ready for a new life, to a new chapter, and I want you to be a part of it." Elena, without hesitation, hugged him. "Max, your past is a part of you, and I accept it. But what we are building now is our future, and I want to be a part of it too." That night, Max felt for the first time in months that his life was finally whole. He realized that he was able not only to leave the past behind, but also to start writing a new story in which there was hope, love, and true happiness. The life of Max and Elena continued to change, becoming deeper and more harmonious. Their relationship reached a new level. They started talking more about their dreams, plans, and how they see their future together. Max felt that next to Elena, he was not just forgetting the past. He was building something new, real. One day, Elena proposed an idea that changed the course of their everyday lives. "Max, why don't we travel more?" she said over dinner. I know several places that you will definitely like. You can take pictures, and I will help you find interesting routes. The idea seemed wonderful to him. Travels have always attracted him, but before he could not find the strength and inspiration for them. Together with Elena, everything seemed simpler and more interesting. They started with a short trip to the mountains, which were several hours away from the city. It was a time when nature was just waking up after winter. The mountains were covered with fog, and fresh air filled the lungs. Max was delighted to take pictures of the scenery, and Elena showed him the places she had discovered during her travels. Their walks were full of light conversation, laughter, and a silence that was not uncomfortable but rather comforting. One evening, sitting by the fire, they discussed what they wanted to achieve in life. "You know," said Elena, "the most important thing for me is not the place where I live, but the person with whom I do it. I am not afraid of change if it brings happiness." Max looked at her, and his heart filled with gratitude. Her words were a confirmation for him that he found not just a partner, but a person who understands him like no one else. "You changed my life, Elena," he said, looking at the fire. "I thought that I would not be able to find peace and happiness anymore, but now I know it is possible." She put her arms around him, and they sat there for a long time, watching the fire slowly die down. Later, traveling became a regular part of their lives. They visited new places, photographed landscapes, met interesting people. Each trip was not just an adventure for them, but an opportunity to learn more about each other. However, life was not completely perfect. The past sometimes reminded of itself. Max sometimes found himself thinking about what might have been if he had once made a different choice. But these thoughts did not bring him pain as before. Elena was always there to remind him that what is important is what is now. Once, during another trip, they stopped in a small house on the coast of the sea. The evening was quiet, and only the sound of the waves came from the shore. Max, holding the camera in his hands, looked at Elena, who was standing on the beach. She was looking at the horizon, and her hair was blowing in the wind. This moment seemed perfect to him. "I think this is one of the best days of my life," he said as he approached her. "I think we'll have many more days like this," she answered, looking him in the eyes. In this silence and peace, Max realized that life was indeed moving forward. It does not forget pain and losses, but gives a chance for happiness. And now he was sure that he was using this chance to the fullest. After many trips, Max and Elena decided to stop and devote more time to their individual projects. Max was fascinated by the idea of creating a photo book. He decided to collect all of his pictures that he had taken over the past year and combine them into a single story. His idea was to show how each person can find a new path after a difficult period of life. It was a story not only about him, but also about many people who have experienced betrayal, loss, or disappointment. Elena supported his plan. "It's going to be great, Max," she said, looking through his pictures. "Your works convey such depth and meaning. People need to see it." Max started working on the project with special inspiration. He spent evenings at the computer, selecting pictures, thinking about texts for them. There was a lot of symbolism in his works. The light breaking through the fog, the calm waters of the lake, the outlines of the mountains at dawn. Each photo had its own meaning and told how the beauty of the surrounding world helped him find harmony. One evening, Elena came to him with an idea. "Max, what if you present this book at the exhibition? It will be not only a photo book, but also an opportunity to share your experience. Your story can inspire others." Max hesitated at first. He always considered himself a person who keeps personal things to himself. But the idea that his story could help someone overcome their own pain inspired him. He agreed. The exhibition was planned for the beginning of autumn. It was a large-scale event to which photographers, artists, and just art lovers were invited. Max decided to make an exhibition not only about his works, but also about the lessons he learned after surviving the betrayal and starting a new life. He prepared several stands with short texts to accompany the photographs. On the day of the opening of the exhibition, Max felt nervous. It was more than just a presentation of his works. This was the moment he told his story publicly. Elena was there, holding his hand, and her presence gave him strength. The exhibition exceeded all his expectations. People stopped by his stands, looked at photos, read texts. Some even approached him to thank him for his work. "Your pictures are inspiring," said one of the visitors. "They feel hope. You have shown how to find light even in the darkest of times." These words touched Max's heart. He realized that everything he went through was not in vain. His pain and disappointment became the basis for something new, meaningful. When the exhibition ended, Max and Elena were sitting in a small cafe nearby. She looked happy. "I always knew you could," she said. "Your story is not only about you, Max. It's about everyone who is looking for a new beginning." Max smiled. He felt that now his life was finally complete. The past no longer dragged him down, and now he could look to the future with hope and confidence. After the success of the exhibition, the lives of Max and Elena became filled with new perspectives. People who visited the exhibition began to actively write to him, thanking him for his works, and some even offered cooperation. One such offer came from a well-known publishing house. They wanted to publish Max's photo book as a full-fledged project that would inspire others. The editor from the publishing house met with Max in person to discuss the details. "Your photographs are more than just art," he said. "This is a story about strength, restoration, and hope. We are sure that many people will find meaning and support in this." Max, supported by Elena, decided to agree. Working on the book became a new challenge for him, but also a way to think more deeply about his path. Elena helped him with the texts, adding her point of view, and also supported him in organizational matters. One evening, while they were working together on a travel section, Max stopped unexpectedly. "Elena," he said, looking at her, "you have become more than just an inspiration for me. You are my strength. If it weren't for you, I probably would have remained in that painful past." She looked at him with a warm smile. "Max, you made this way yourself. I was just there, and I will always be there." These words gave him the confidence to continue. He understood that now he is not afraid of mistakes or challenges. He not only had a new life, but also a partner with whom he wanted to share every moment. The book came out a few months later and became a real success. It was included in the lists of the most inspiring publications of the year. Max received letters from readers from different parts of the world. People wrote how his story helped them find the strength to move on after their own losses and disappointments. Once, during the presentation of the book, Max spoke in front of the audience. "We all go through hardships," he said. "But what is important is not what happened to us, but how we overcome it. I realized that even after the darkest period in life, a new path can be found. And the most important thing is the people who support us in this." Elena sat in the first row and looked at him with pride. Max knew he wouldn't have gotten to this point without her. After the presentation, they decided to have a small dinner just for the two of them. During that dinner, Max realized it was time to take the next step. Taking out a small box, he looked at Elena. "Elena, you became the person who filled my life with light. I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Will you be my wife?" Elena was amazed. There were tears in her eyes, but they were tears of happiness. "Yes, Max," she answered, with joy. This moment was the culmination of a new life for Max. He now knew that his path, although difficult, had led him to where he truly wanted to be. He found not only himself, but also a person with whom he was ready to share everything. After the engagement, Max and Elena's life took on a new meaning. They started planning the wedding, but did it with their characteristic lighthearted approach. Without too much pathos and fuss, they decided to spend this day so that it was important and special only for them. They chose a small house by the lake, similar to the one where they first realized they wanted to be together. Preparation for the wedding was full of joyful moments. Max, who used to not pay attention to such details, now took an active part in everything. The choice of music, the menu, even the decoration of the place. He did all this with the idea of making this day unforgettable for Elena. On their wedding day, nature seemed to bless their union. The lake was quiet, the sky was clear, and the sun gently illuminated everything around. Only their closest friends, a few relatives, and those who supported them in the most difficult moments were present at the ceremony. The atmosphere was filled with warmth and love. When Max saw Elena walking towards him in a white dress, he felt tears welling up in his eyes. She was incredibly beautiful, and he realized that this moment was one of the most important in his life. "Elena," he said when it was time to say the vows, "you became the light that helped me find myself." You taught me not to be afraid of the past and to look forward with hope. I promise to be the same light for you, support you, and share every moment of our lives." Elena, looking into his eyes, answered, "Max, you showed me that true strength lies in the ability to start over. You are my support, my love, my faith. I promise to be with you in every journey, in every trial, in every joy." After these words, they exchanged wedding rings and were pronounced husband and wife. The guests applauded, but this moment was only for the two of them. Their hugs, smiles, joy, all this was filled with true happiness. After the wedding, Max and Elena went on a short trip, which was more than a honeymoon for them. They visited places they had long dreamed of seeing: an ancient city with narrow streets, a seashore with white sand and green hills where the dawn seemed magical. Max, as always, took pictures, but this time with a special feeling. Each frame was not only about the beauty of nature, but also about the beauty of the moments they shared together. One evening, sitting by the fire on the beach, Elena hugged Max and said, "I sometimes think about how our lives could have turned out if we had not met. But then I understand that everything we went through led us to this very moment." Max smiled and looked at her. "You are right. Everything that happened made sense, and now I know for sure that I want to be next to you always." That evening, they looked at the starry sky, holding each other's hands. For them, it was not just the beginning of a new chapter of life, but a confirmation that together they are capable of anything. After returning from the honeymoon, Max and Elena began to arrange their life together. They rented a spacious apartment with large windows overlooking the park. Every detail of the new home was chosen together, from the color of the walls to the details of the decor. It was important to them to create a space that reflected both of them. One evening, when they were arranging the books on the shelves, Elena proposed an idea that became a new challenge for them. "Max, what if we create something together?" she said. "Something more than just our life. Perhaps a project that would combine your photography and my vision of the world." Max, interested, asked, "What exactly do you mean?" Elena explained that they could create a series of trips in which they would not just take pictures, but also tell stories of the places and people they meet. She wanted these stories to inspire people to discover the world and themselves. "It can't just be about travel," she added. "We can shoot videos, make exhibitions, even write books. All this is about how important it is to appreciate life." Max was fascinated by the idea. He understood that it was not only about creativity, but also about the opportunity to tell about their common path. He agreed, and they started working on the concept. The first trip as part of their project was to a small village in the mountains. They decided to tell the story of an old master who made wooden products all his life. Max took a series of pictures of his workshop, his hands at work on the carving, and his face, which reflected wisdom and calm. Elena recorded a conversation with the master in which he shared his vision of life. "Work is not just what you do," he said. "This is how you give your soul to the world." This story was the first in their project and generated a lot of interest when they shared it on social media. People wrote to them, thanking them for their inspiration. Many noted that their approach to storytelling was genuine and sincere. The following months were filled with new trips and discoveries. They met people from different cultures, visited forgotten places that had their own unique history, and created content that combined photos, text, and video. Each new story was not only about others, but also about themselves. They discovered new sides of each other. Together, they overcame difficulties and rejoiced at successes. Once, returning from another trip, Elena said, "Max, I think we are on the right track. This is not just a project. This is our life. We create something that lasts." Max agreed. He felt that with her he had found not only a partner, but also a true purpose. Everything he had been through in the past made sense now because it had brought him to this moment. He knew that there was still a lot of work ahead of him, but that didn't scare him anymore. Together they could overcome any challenge. And now their story became not only about feelings, but also about how together they changed the world around them, step by step creating something real and unforgettable. Years passed. The life of Max and Elena was full of adventures, challenges, and victories. Their project, which started as a shared idea, grew into something bigger than they could have imagined. They became famous creators. Their stories inspired thousands of people. Books, exhibitions, videos, and photographs became not only their way of telling about the world, but also a way of changing it. One autumn evening, when the trees in the park behind their house were covered with golden leaves, Max and Elena were sitting on the balcony. They drank tea, enjoying the silence, which was only occasionally broken by the rustling of leaves. Their home became a real refuge where they could stop, rest, and think about the future. "You know, Max," Elena said, looking at the sunset, "sometimes I think about how it all began. About your first photos, about our first trip, about how we started this project. It all seems so far away and yet so close." Max smiled as he looked at her. "I often think about it too. But do you know what is most important? All of this has brought us here to this moment, and I am grateful for every minute of our journey." Elena nodded, and they were silent for a few minutes, watching the sun sink below the horizon. "Are you happy?" she suddenly asked. Max answered without hesitation. "Yes, now I can honestly say that I am happy, and it's all thanks to you. You showed me that life can be beautiful even after the darkest times." She squeezed his hand, her eyes shining. "And I'm happy that we did it together. And you know, I think the best is yet to come." That evening, they sat together for a long time, talking about the past and dreams about the future. Their story was not only about love, but also about healing, growth, and a journey together. They understood that life is not only moments of joy or difficulties, but how you live them together with the person you love. Their journey is not over. It continued every day, in every new moment they created together. And they were sure that together they would be able to overcome everything and leave a mark that would inspire others for years to come.